People who married into rich families? Have your in-laws ever tried to drive you out? I was at work when I got the call that my wife was in surgery after being pulled out of a burning car. By the time I got to the hospital, her parents were already there, and the doctors were waiting with a grim expression. They said Carla had suffered severe head trauma, and though she was alive, she wouldn't recognize people for a long time. They let me in to see her, and she was actually awake, but her eyes just looked straight through me. That's when Carla's family stepped in. They'd been looking for a way to get rid of me for years, and saw this as their golden ticket. The first move they made was transferring Carla to Whitmore Medical, the private clinic they donated an entire wing to. Their word was law in that place, and suddenly, the nurses weren't letting me in to see Carla. Every time I showed up, they said she was resting, or in therapy. I had to watch through the window as her mother stroked her hair, smiling at her, making sure she saw her as her caretaker instead of me. I felt invisible and powerless. It took me 2 weeks to sneak into the ward just to see Carla in person. That's when I saw James for the first time. My in-laws had been trying to get Carla to leave me for him for years. He was sitting next to her, laughing and touching her hand. She seemed slightly confused, but accepted his presence because her parents were nodding and smiling, assuring her that this was normal. I tried to walk towards them, but 2 nurses literally pulled me away and informed my in-laws of what I'd done. As days went by, it got worse. One afternoon, I was waiting at the nurses' station, begging for something, when I overheard my father-in-law describing James to Carla. He talked about his family's estate, their shared social circles, and casually mentioned how lucky Carla was to have him as her husband. I felt my stomach drop. I tried to enter the room again, and this time a nurse told me that Carla's family had explicitly banned me from seeing her. I stood frozen, watching Carla talk intimately with James through the glass window, looking comfortable with him, her body language trusting him. To make it even worse, I later found out my in-laws had been arranging romantic dinners with James in the private dining room to help Carla feel normal again. I felt sick, desperate. I snuck into Carla's room one night. When she saw me, she looked confused, but to my surprise, she didn't immediately reject me. I talked to her, recounting memories of our first apartment above the garage, simple moments eating takeout on the floor, and the quiet nights we spent planning our future. Her expression softened, and I could see tiny hints of recognition. But before anything more could happen, security rushed in and escorted me out. The next week was agony. I overheard nurses talking about James bringing Carla flowers daily, holding her hand, and how he'd even kiss her forehead. I realized Carla was genuinely starting to believe James was her husband. It hurt every time I saw her now, confused and uncertain, reflexively reaching for his hand instead of mine. But I refused to give up. I tried again, this time during a shift change. I reminded Carla of our wedding, how we'd gotten married at the courthouse because her parents refused to pay for anything, how she'd held me when my dad died. She listened closely. She didn't have some sudden moment of clarity, but she seemed genuinely troubled when security asked me to leave again. Over the next few months,